Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 5 of Tour of Japan, the review series for Gran Turismo 6's wide variety of JGTC machines, both GT300 and GT500 class. Now in this episode we're featuring a GT500 machine. It is one of the most iconic JGTC machines and my personal favourite overall, partly because of how nostalgic it is for me from way back as far as Gran Turismo 2, which is where I started playing Gran Turismo, and also because I just love the colour, I love the livery, it just looks so cool. Now it is of course the Pennzoil Nismo Skyline. But what does this car have to offer? Because the Skyline JGTC cars and Skylines in general are highly competitive racing machines, so surely this one is no different. Well, the on-paper specs are an excellent start. The engine is a 2.7 litre and it produces 860 horsepower when fully tuned and a massive 772 pound-feet of torque, which for a 2.7 litre straight six is pretty phenomenal spec. Now it weighs in at slightly more than some of the other JGTC models at 1200 kilos, but thanks to the massive power it still has an excellent power to weight ratio of 717 horsepower per tonne. And incidentally, when fully tuned, the PP of this particular GTR sits at 643, which is high, but perhaps not as high as you might think, or may have expected it to be. The NSXs, for instance, even the non-premium Mobile 1 NSX is 650 pp, so perhaps surprising a Skyline would be lower. Now, in terms of performance, this Skyline is, in terms of top speed, a little bit off the pace, to be completely honest. It's not quite as quick as I would have expected. 860 horsepower with a top speed gear ratio setup and low aero is around 225 miles per hour, which although isn't slow for the JGTC class, isn't as quick as you'd expect from a Skyline. That's around 5 miles per hour off the pace of a Supra and around 10 miles per hour off the top end pace of an NSX, and even slower again when compared to the R35 generation GTR JGTC machines. However, as I said, it's certainly not a slow car, and as with all of these cars, there are very, very few tracks where you actually need that kind of top speed. The only tracks really that you need it are La Sarthe and possibly the Nürburgring Ring, but even then, unlikely because you still need your cornering ability. Now, handling-wise, it's very good, but there is a word of warning. The handling is very good, it's extremely grippy, and it actually feels quite heavy. The car has quite a bit of understeer, but it does have some snap oversteer that this car suffers from, where you'll get around about 70% of a corner, and then suddenly the back end will snatch out for no reason. And that's something to bear in mind about this model. Now obviously we haven't tested the other Skyline models yet, so I can't say as to how that compares to the others, whether that's a trait that they all share, if it's like the NSX wherein they all have tricky handling or not. But for this version in particular, that is the case. The handling is very good up until around 60 or 70% of the corner, and then it will suddenly try and just spin up the rear wheels a little bit, or really snap the back end out on you. Now, it's far from being undrivable, and it's certainly not a bad handling car. The handling is very good. You just have to use careful throttle control, really, which isn't surprising considering it has 860 horsepower going through the wheels. Overall, it is, probably not surprisingly to hear me say, a massively competitive machine, despite its slight top speed disadvantage and slightly temperamental steering. It is an excellent car overall. The torque and power mean acceleration is just relentless. The low speed handling is the trickier section. That's where the snap oversteer comes into play more. The high speed handling is much more heavy, which on most tracks is a good thing. It means that you can fly through corners without worrying about a twitchy rear end, which can sometimes happen on some JGTC machines, but that's not the case with this one. Now, this is a non-premium model, fairly obviously. It doesn't have an interior, and it costs 750,000 credits, which is among the top end of price for JGTC machines. But it's definitely worth that, because in the JGTC category, it's a brilliant machine, but also if you plan on using it beyond the Super GT class of racing and up against, say, GT1 machines, it's still a hugely competitive car. And really, it always has been on Gran Turismo, way back since at least Gran Turismo 2, it was a very, very fast car. So that's it for this review. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.